Welcome to Central Iowa Sports Shorts, brought to you by CISN TV, streaming live sports in Central Iowa. I'm your host, Dave Mabel, and I'll be bringing you stories of amazing Iowans doing amazing things in all kinds of sports. This week, we're going to check in with our own Lisa Carpinelli as she talks with Heather Paskovich about her amazing Race Across the West, a 900-mile bicycle race from California to Colorado. But first, we need to thank those who allow us to bring this to you for free.
We believe that women who love to ride a bike, any kind of bike, road bike, mountain bike, gravel bike, or simply riding the trails with their kids, need to have quality cycling gear that fits well. You can't just take men's biking shorts and jerseys and somehow shrink them and expect them to fit a woman. That's why our jerseys, tank tops, and cycling shorts are designed with a woman's body in mind.
Welcome back to Central Iowa Sports Shorts, and now let's throw it to Lisa Carpinelli and her discussion with Heather Paskovich.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I can't even imagine what a race like that is like, and it's probably weird to think about it now that you've survived it and done it. I guess my first question would be, how would you say it went?
It went well. I mean, there certainly are some learning curves that come along with that kind of a race. We had a goal. We actually had quite a set goal, and then the conditions were just much more challenging than anticipated. We knew it was going to be hot, but the temperatures, they actually had heat advisory in the desert for that time frame, and so the plan had to change, which is kind of ultra in and of itself. So it went well, but there were things I could have done better, and I'll apply that to future races, but for the circumstances we had, it went well.
So again, reminding everyone that you won, like as the in the women's division, you won and got second overall.
Correct.
Right. So was there a goal to have a faster time? Was there? I mean, if you say you didn't hit it, from our standpoint, it sure as heck looks like you hit it. But
yeah, I fell off my metric by many hours, and that was just a matter of, we started out, kind of on target, feeling out the circumstances. It was a lot hotter. It required a lot more attention to staying cool. And in order to do that, frequent stops, which kind of slowed things down. And just, in those weather conditions, your power actually drops, your performance drops overall. So, you can only push so hard to make it to the end of this race. You have to make a decision. I wasn't going to meet the metric that I had set out. It was just a matter of kind of damage control and do the best you can with what you've got left.
So as you're doing this, especially in the hottest moments, as I understand it, you were maybe riding for 15 minutes and then having to cool down. I mean, how did you deal with that extreme heat? And I would only assume that your medical background had to probably help you, or did it not? Did it almost, in a sense, did you have too much knowledge? Do you know what I mean?
No. We knew what we were getting into. We were anticipating the desert was going to be a challenge. Actually, that was one of the big reasons why I wanted to do this race, is because I've not gotten to perform in this kind of environment before, and I thought it would be fun and something different to try. So we actually did, Iowa wasn't that hot before we left. I think we had a couple 90-degree days. We did a heat training protocol, which was, actually working out and then sit in a warm bath for several days to kind of build up and challenge your body to understand, coping with heat stress. I had a core monitor, which actually does core body temperature monitoring. So I'd trained with that for several weeks prior to leaving. So we kind of had an idea of when I do intensity workouts, what does it look like? When I'm on endurance rides, what does that look like? How long does it take my body to respond to cool off? If we start seeing a trend that's not going in a favorable direction. And I mean, we didn't spend a ton of time looking at that data, but it was just one more data point to look at as a guide. I don't know, my health background didn't really, I don't know if it really factors in for this or not. I think I would be hopeful that people that are coming into a race of this magnitude have already kind of, dipped their toe in uncomfortable circumstances and know how their body's going to react to it. Certainly you're going to find out that maybe it's different than what you thought. Like for me, it was my power dropped off like a freaking rock after 5 hours, and I was like, this is not what I expected, but what do I do?
So do you mean when it dropped off after 5 hours, was it 5 hours after the start, or was it, and then how did you get it back? How critical was sleep? How much sleep did you get? What was the quality of that?
I didn't get any power back. That was the problem. So, you kind of want to go out with a controlled start, which was my plan. I want to continue to hold on to that controlled start for as long as I can. And it was just abundantly clear as soon as the temperatures started escalating, my power was dropping. I couldn't pedal hard enough to make up for that. You just get hotter and hotter and feel worse. And 5 hours into the race is when I already started appreciating that this is actually going to be a real game changer for this race.
So when you're in that moment, this was the biggest question I had. What are you saying to yourself? How are you mentally keeping yourself going? Because I think a lot of people, regardless of the sport they did or whatever they are, how do you keep yourself going knowing that there's this really incredible challenge that is going to take a considerable amount of time to complete?
I think it's always trying to look for the positives, like understanding you signed up for this. You knew there were going to be challenges. You had a general idea of what said challenges were going to be, and if they're more than what you expected, well, that's kind of the name of the game. You need to be positive about what you're dealing with and how do you problem solve your way through that in a positive manner. I'm not going to lie that maybe 5 hours in, when I saw how things were trending, I was like, why did I sign up for this? So that lasted for a handful of seconds, which I think is an appropriate shock because you're just not performing to your own expectation, and that's always a hard knock. But then it's like, well, I came to learn from this experience and I want to get to the finish line, so that mentality is not going to work. Let's figure out how to get through our circumstances. Did
you have any mantras? Did you have any songs in your head? I'm just trying to think of how on earth did you spend the time? I know there's the hugging of trees. I know there was don't stop and hug any trees.
I didn't get to hug a tree. They wouldn't let me. I also tried to sleep in a ditch. They wouldn't let me do that either. So that's
not a phrase you thought that
gravel roots. No, that was actually an ongoing issue of all of a sudden I just was so tired and just stopped, and they're like, you can't do that. We can't be in this spot. So it was seconds of stopping, but it's, my unsupported self. If I want to stop and take a picture, I stop and take a picture, minus the car that's behind me and the criteria that we have to be 5 feet off the fog line. So get your butt moving again. So it was, some prodding of don't remind yourself to keep going and follow the rules.
Has this always been in you? Because again, we're talking about this ultra endurance type of endeavor. Has this always been a part of who you are? Head down, barrel through, or is this a newfound thing that you've discovered recently about yourself?
I think probably it's a product of maybe my own intrinsic personality trait, that I like to kind of push the envelope. I've always felt that way. I had challenges when I was younger that were, not in sport, and so, navigating my way through that was kind of similar. You're faced with these unpleasant circumstances, you can choose to wallow in your misery, or you can figure out how to be positive and work your way through it. Well, that translates into sport for me as well. So now it's I've chosen this. I can stop at any time, but that's not the goal. So.
Thanks for watching. We'd like to invite you to follow along as we meet some amazing Iowans doing amazing things in all kinds of sports. Please subscribe to CISN TV on YouTube and follow along on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll look forward to seeing you again next time on Central Iowa Sports Shorts, brought to you by CISN.TV.
The Central Iowa Sports Network is your home for year-round coverage of high school athletics in the CIML, providing coverage year-round and always streaming for free on YouTube. Subscribe to CISN TV on YouTube to stay up to date on upcoming events. Like and follow on Facebook and Twitter at CISN TV for even more local sports content. CISN TV, the home for live local sports.